Settle into the quiet as it already is. There is no need to alter the room, no need to correct the day, no need to resolve every unfinished thread before allowing the mind to lower its intensity. Simply notice that you are here, awake in the late hour, aware of your own thinking. The body is horizontal, but the mind is still standing, still pacing, still reviewing. Tonight we will move slowly through the philosophy of Marcus Aurelius, not as distant history, but as a disciplined way of meeting this very hour, the hour of overthinking, the hour when anxiety seems louder because the world is quieter. Marcus Aurelius did not write for an audience. In his private notes, later collected as the Meditations, he was speaking to himself. He was emperor of Rome, responsible for armies, plague, political instability, betrayal. His nights were not abstract. They were heavy with consequence. And yet what he wrote was not strategy, not complaint, not even comfort. It was correction. Correction of perception. Correction of judgment. Marcus Aurelius studied Stoicism under teachers influenced by Epictetus, and he inherited a philosophical lineage that stretched back to Zeno of Citium. From them he absorbed a framework simple in structure and demanding in practice. Distinguish what is within your control and what is not. Align your judgments with nature. Cultivate virtue as the only true good. Accept fate as the unfolding of a rational order. He did not write these ideas from comfort. He wrote them in military camps, during campaigns along the Danube, surrounded by uncertainty. The anxiety he faced was not hypothetical. It concerned lives, borders, disease. And still, the core of his reflections returns again and again to one disciplined act: examine your judgment. For Marcus Aurelius, the disturbance you feel is not caused directly by events. It is caused by your interpretation of events. This is the Stoic discipline of perception. The event itself is neutral. Your assessment gives it weight. At night, when you replay conversations or anticipate failures, notice how the mind supplies interpretations with remarkable speed. It labels, predicts, dramatizes. Marcus Aurelius would slow this process deliberately. He would ask, what is the bare fact here? Strip away the narrative. Reduce it to what can be observed without opinion. Someone spoke abruptly. A message has not been answered. A task remains unfinished. These are facts. The rest, the imagined consequences, the assumed judgments of others, the catastrophic projection, these are additions. Marcus Aurelius insisted that the mind has authority over its own judgments. This is not a claim that you control the world. It is a claim that you control your assent to impressions. An impression appears. You do not have to agree with it immediately. You can pause. In this late hour, impressions feel convincing because there are no competing stimuli. The mind has space to elaborate. Stoicism does not attempt to eliminate thought. It attempts to train it. Marcus Aurelius would remind himself, you have power over your mind, not outside events. This is not a motivational slogan. It is a metaphysical claim. The only true good in Stoic doctrine is virtue, the alignment of your reasoning faculty with nature's rational order. Everything else, health, reputation, outcome, belongs to the category of externals. Preferred perhaps, but not under full control. When anxiety rises at night, it usually concerns externals, future outcomes, other people's decisions, uncertain results. Marcus Aurelius would classify these calmly, not dismissively, simply accurately. Is this within my control? If it is, then it belongs to action tomorrow. If it is not, then it belongs to fate. Fate, for Marcus Aurelius, is not superstition. It is the unfolding of cause and effect within a rational cosmos. What happens could not have been otherwise, given prior conditions. Resisting that fact does not alter it. It only adds friction within the mind. He practiced what later Stoics called the discipline of desire, wanting what happens because it happens according to nature. At night, this becomes practical. The day unfolded as it did. Words were spoken as they were spoken. Choices were made. They now belong to the past, which is entirely outside your present control. To re-argue them internally is to attempt governance over what is already fixed. Marcus Aurelius would say, confine yourself to the present moment. Not as abstraction, but as logical boundary. The past no longer exists. The future does not yet exist. Only this moment of reasoning exists. Even anxiety about tomorrow is an anticipation of impressions not yet formed. Notice how the mind tries to rehearse suffering in advance. The Stoics called this the misuse of imagination. They did not deny preparation. They denied unnecessary pre-experiencing of pain. If difficulty comes, Marcus Aurelius believed you will meet it with the same faculty you possess now, reason. There is no additional benefit in exhausting that faculty before the event arrives. He reminded himself that human beings are made for cooperation, that other people's faults arise from ignorance, not malice, and that his own role was to respond with justice and self-command. At night, grievances can swell. Small interactions inflate. Marcus Aurelius would dissect them. What is the harm here? Has my capacity for virtue been damaged? Has my reason been taken from me? If not, then nothing essential has been harmed. This is not denial of emotion. It is hierarchy of values. Only the corruption of your own character is truly harmful. Everything else is material for practice. Overthinking often masks a desire for control over uncontrollable variables. Marcus Aurelius narrowed his sphere deliberately. He would write reminders, do not waste the remainder of your life in speculation about others. Attend to your own ruling faculty. The ruling faculty, the hegemonikon, is the governing center of the mind. In Stoic psychology, it receives impressions and decides whether to assent. Tonight, you can observe this process. An anxious thought arises. It proposes a scenario. Before agreeing, you can examine it. Is this a fact? Or an interpretation? Is this within my control? Or beyond it? Does this concern virtue? Or reputation? Each question simplifies. Marcus Aurelius frequently contemplated mortality. Not morbidly, but proportionally. You could leave life at any moment, he wrote. Let that determine what you do and say and think. At night, mortality reframes urgency. Many concerns shrink when placed against impermanence. The argument you replay may not matter in a year. The mistake you magnify may dissolve in time. From the vantage of nature's scale, most disturbances are small. He advised viewing events from above, as if from a height, seeing cities, wars, ambitions, and their eventual disappearance. This perspective dilutes intensity without denying significance. As the night deepens, we can reduce the framework to essentials. There are things within your control, your judgments, your intentions, your actions. There are things outside your control, outcomes, other minds, past events, the unfolding of tomorrow. Confuse these categories, and anxiety grows. Clarify them, and the mind steadies. Marcus Aurelius did not promise comfort. He promised alignment. Alignment with nature. Alignment with reason. Alignment with the role assigned to you. Your role tonight is simple. The day is complete. Action is suspended. Therefore only one domain remains, judgment. Examine it. If a thought concerns tomorrow's task, note that action belongs to tomorrow. If a thought concerns yesterday's error, note that correction, if possible, also belongs to tomorrow. If a thought concerns something entirely outside your influence, note that it belongs to fate. Again and again, return to classification. Within control. Outside control. Within virtue. Outside virtue. The structure repeats. As we simplify further, fewer words are required. You control your response, not events. You control assent, not outcomes. You control intention, not reputation. Marcus Aurelius would say, accept what comes woven in the pattern of your destiny, for what could more aptly fit your needs. This is not sentiment. It is coherence. The event has already occurred. Resistance does not undo it. Acceptance does not weaken you. It removes internal contradiction. Anxiety is often the mind arguing with reality. Reality does not argue back. It simply is. Your task is not dependent tonight, only to judge it correctly. Virtue remains available in any circumstance. Patience, justice, moderation, courage. Even in darkness, these are intact. Nothing tonight can strip them from you. The mind begins to tire of argument when categories are clear. Within control. Outside control. Choose the first. Release the second. Marcus Aurelius returned always to this discipline. Not once. Repeatedly. Daily. Nightly. So we repeat it gently now. You have authority over your judgments. You do not have authority over fate. Align your judgments with nature. Accept what unfolds. Act well when action is required. Rest when action is impossible. This hour requires no action. Only right judgment. And right judgment is simple. Some things depend on you. Some things do not. Attend to what depends on you. Let the rest follow its course. This is sufficient. This is Stoic. This is how Marcus Aurelius steadied his own mind beneath the weight of empire. You are not beneath that weight tonight. Only beneath your own thoughts. And those, at least, are within your sphere. So let the final idea the rest to unfold as it must. Marcus Aurelius would sometimes remind himself how small a portion of time any disturbance truly occupies, how brief a human life is when viewed against the long procession of generations, and how quickly even the most dramatic events dissolve into memory and then into nothing at all. He did not use this reflection to diminish responsibility, but to restore proportion. Proportion is a powerful solvent for anxiety. At night, proportion is often lost. The mind narrows its focus onto a single unfinished task, a single uncertain outcome, a single conversation replayed with new variations. It feels immense because it fills the field of attention. Marcus Aurelius would widen that field deliberately. He would imagine the vastness of time before his birth and the vastness that would follow his death. Within that immensity, the present disturbance becomes measurable. He would ask himself, will this matter in a year? In 10? When I am gone? Not to dismiss it, but to classify it. Stoicism is always classification. What category does this belong to? Is it essential to my character? Or is it an external fluctuation? If it does not corrupt your capacity for justice, self-control, courage, or practical wisdom, then it does not injure what Marcus Aurelius considered your true self. Everything else, praise, blame, success, delay, belongs to the shifting surface of life. Overthinking at night often concerns imagined futures. The Stoics observed that the future does not yet exist, and therefore cannot exert force upon you except through imagination. Marcus Aurelius disciplined his imagination. He would reduce feared scenarios to their components. If illness comes, it is pain, weakness, recovery, or death, each natural. If failure comes, it is the loss of reputation or opportunity, both external. In every case, the only true question remains, will I respond with virtue? That question simplifies the landscape. Instead of asking, what if everything goes wrong, the Stoic asks, if something goes wrong, can I respond well? The second question is answerable. The first is endless. Marcus Aurelius believed that nature equips you for what nature sends. You are not an isolated fragment, you are a rational being within a rational whole. If an event reaches you, it has passed through the same network of causes that formed your capacity to meet it. This does not guarantee ease. It guarantees coherence. When the mind races ahead into hypothetical outcomes, it abandons this coherence. It attempts to control variables that are not yet real. Marcus Aurelius would gently pull his attention back to the present faculty of reason. What is required now? Nothing. The day is done. Action belongs to tomorrow's light. The Stoic discipline of action applies when action is possible. The discipline of desire applies when events unfold. The discipline of assent applies when impressions appear. Tonight, only the discipline of assent is relevant. An impression arises, tomorrow will be overwhelming. Pause. Is this a fact or a projection? At this moment, tomorrow does not exist. What exists is a thought about tomorrow. And that thought is within your governance. You may examine it without hostility. You may withhold agreement. Marcus Aurelius practiced this repeatedly. He did not assume mastery, he rehearsed it. He would catch himself drifting into resentment or fear and write a reminder to correct the drift. Correction action is calm. It does not scold. It clarifies. You can do the same now. An anxious narrative forms. Instead of following it, you reduce it. This is an imagined scenario. This concerns an outcome outside my control. My role is to prepare my character, not to secure results. Again, classification reduces intensity. Marcus Aurelius also reflected on the nature of other people. Much nighttime anxiety involves social evaluation, what others think, what they meant, how they judged you. The Stoic view is direct, other minds are not yours to command. Their opinions belong to them, shaped by their own impressions and ignorance. If someone misunderstands you, that misunderstanding exists in their ruling faculty, not yours. Your responsibility is to act justly and honestly. Reputation is an external. This can feel severe, but it is liberating. The sphere of concern contracts to what is genuinely yours. Anxiety thrives in expanded spheres, where you attempt to manage reactions you cannot access. Marcus Aurelius would say that human beings are made for cooperation, and that when others act poorly, they do so out of ignorance of the good. This reframes resentment. Instead of replaying injury, you see error. Instead of plotting defense, you maintain your own integrity. The mind begins to quiet when it no longer fights invisible opponents. Another common pattern at night is regret. You revisit something you said, something you failed to say, a decision you would revise. Marcus Aurelius approached past mistakes as material for improvement, not as grounds for self-torment. The past is fixed. Only your present judgment about it is flexible. If an error occurred, you note it. If correction is possible, it belongs to future action. If not, it belongs to fate. Self-reproach beyond that is indulgence in what cannot be altered. The Stoic ideal is not emotional numbness. It is rational steadiness. Steadiness emerges when energy is no longer spent on the impossible. As we continue, let the framework grow simpler. There is the present moment. Within it, there is your faculty of judgment. Everything else is external. Tomorrow's uncertainty, external. Yesterday's mistake, external. Other people's opinions, external. Your capacity to judge rightly, internal. Marcus Aurelius returned always to this center. Even as emperor, he wrote reminders as if he were a student. He knew the mind wanders. He did not expect permanent clarity. He expected practice. So tonight, this is practice. Anxious thought. Pause. Classify. Within control or outside. If outside, release it to fate. If inside, reserve it for tomorrow's action. Nothing more is required in this hour. The body lies still. The world continues its turning without your supervision. The Stoic does not attempt to hold the cosmos together. He attempts to hold his judgments in order. That is enough work for one mind. As the night deepens, the distinctions can become shorter. Control. Not control. Virtue. External. Assent. Release. Marcus Aurelius would sometimes remind himself how small a portion of time any disturbance truly occupies, how brief a human life is when viewed against the long procession of generations, and how quickly even the most dramatic traumatic events dissolve into memory and then into nothing at all. He did not use this reflection to diminish responsibility, but to restore proportion. Proportion is a powerful solvent for anxiety. At night, proportion is often lost. The mind narrows its focus onto a single unfinished task, a single uncertain outcome, a single conversation replayed with new variations. It feels immense because it fills the field of attention. Marcus Aurelius would widen that field deliberately. He would imagine the vastness of time before his birth and the vastness that would follow his death. Within that immensity, the present disturbance becomes measurable. He would ask himself, will this matter in a year? In 10? When I am gone? Not to dismiss it, but to classify it. Stoicism is always classification. What category does this belong to? Is it essential to my character? Or is it an external fluctuation? If it does not corrupt your capacity for justice, self-control, courage, or practical wisdom, then it does not injure what Marcus Aurelius considered your true self. Everything else, praise, blame, success, delay, belongs to the shifting surface of life. Overthinking at night often concerns imagined futures. The Stoics observed that the future does not yet exist, and therefore cannot exert force upon you except through imagination. Marcus Aurelius disciplined his imagination. He would reduce feared scenarios to their components. If illness comes, it is pain, weakness, recovery, or death, each natural. If failure comes, it is the loss of reputation or opportunity, both external. In every case, the only true question remains, will I respond with virtue? That question simplifies the landscape. Instead of asking, what if everything goes wrong, the Stoic asks, if something goes wrong, can I respond well? The second question is answerable. The first is endless. Marcus Aurelius believed that nature equips you for what nature sends. You are not an isolated fragment, you are a rational being within a rational whole. If an event reaches you, it has passed through the same network of causes that formed your capacity to meet it. This does not guarantee ease. It guarantees coherence. When the mind races ahead into hypothetical outcomes, it abandons this coherence. It attempts to control variables that are not yet real. Marcus Aurelius would gently pull his attention back to the present faculty of reason. What is required now? Nothing. The day is done. Action belongs to tomorrow's light. The Stoic discipline of action applies when action is possible. The discipline of desire applies when events unfold. The discipline of assent applies when impressions appear. Tonight, only the discipline of assent is relevant. An impression arises, tomorrow will be overwhelming. Pause. Is this a fact or a projection? At this moment, tomorrow does not exist. What exists is a thought about tomorrow. And that thought is within your governance. You may examine it without hostility. You may withhold agreement. Marcus Aurelius practiced this repeatedly. He did not assume mastery, he rehearsed it. He would catch himself drifting into resentment or fear and write a reminder to correct the drift. Correction is calm. It does not scold. It clarifies. You can do the same now. An anxious narrative forms. Instead of following it, you reduce it. This is an imagined scenario. This concerns an outcome outside my control. My role is to prepare my character, not to secure results. Again, classification reduces intensity. Marcus Aurelius also reflected on the nature of other people. Much nighttime anxiety involves social evaluation, what others think, what they meant, how they judged you. The Stoic view is direct, other minds are not yours to command. Their opinions belong to them, shaped by their own impressions and ignorance. If someone misunderstands you, that misunderstanding exists in their ruling faculty, not yours. Your responsibility is to act justly and honestly. Reputation is an external. This can feel severe, but it is liberating. The sphere of concern contracts to what is genuinely yours. Anxiety thrives in expanded spheres, where you attempt to manage reactions you cannot access. Marcus Aurelius would say that human beings are made for cooperation, and that when others act poorly, they do so out of ignorance of the good. This reframes resentment. Instead of replaying injury, you see error. Instead of plotting defense, you maintain your own integrity. The mind begins to quiet when it no longer fights invisible opponents. Another common pattern at night is regret. You revisit something you said, something you failed to say, a decision you would revise. Marcus Aurelius approached past mistakes as material for improvement, not as grounds for self-torment. The past is fixed. Only your present judgment about it is flexible. If an error occurred, you note it. If correction is possible, it belongs to future action. If not, it belongs to fate. Self-reproach beyond that is indulgence in what cannot be altered. The Stoic ideal is not emotional numbness. It is rational steadiness. Steadiness emerges when energy is no longer spent on the impossible. As we continue, let the framework grow simpler. There is the present moment. Within it, there is your faculty of judgment. Everything else is external. Tomorrow's uncertainty, external. Yesterday's mistake, external. Other people's opinions, external. Your capacity to judge rightly, internal. Marcus Aurelius returned always to this center. Even as emperor, he wrote reminders as if he were a student. He knew the mind wanders. He did not expect permanent clarity. He expected practice. So tonight, this is practice. Anxious thought. Pause. Classify. Within control or outside. If outside, release it to fate. If inside, reserve it for tomorrow's action. Nothing more is required in this hour. The body lies still. The world continues its turning without your supervision. The Stoic does not attempt to hold the cosmos together. He attempts to hold his judgments in order. That is enough work for one mind. As the night deepens, the distinctions can become shorter. Control. Not control. Virtue. External. Assent. Release. Marcus Aurelius often reminded himself that everything changes, and that change itself is the fabric of nature. Empires shift, bodies age, reputations rise and dissolve, even memory fades. He did not resist this. He studied it. For him, impermanence was not tragedy, it was structure. To demand permanence from what is transient is to argue with the design of the world. At night, Anxiety frequently grows from the desire to secure something unstable: approval, certainty, permanence, guarantees. The Stoic correction is not to suppress that desire, but to redirect it. Desire what depends on you. Release what does not. Marcus Aurelius would ask, "Why am I disturbed?" Because something I wanted did not unfold as expected. Then examine the want. Was it directed toward virtue, or toward an external result? If it was toward virtue, acting with integrity, speaking truthfully, fulfilling duty, then that remains available regardless of outcome. If it was toward outcome, praise, success, control, then it was never fully yours. This distinction gradually removes the fuel from overthinking. When you replay a scenario, often you are attempting to re-engineer an external. You imagine a different sentence, a different tone, a different reaction from someone else. But the Stoic position is firm. Once an event passes into the past, it is woven into fate. It cannot be unwoven by thought. Marcus Aurelius would not indulge the fantasy of rewriting what has already been sealed. He would redirect attention to the present faculty. What judgment am I adding now? Am I compounding the event with resentment or fear? That addition is optional. There is a simplicity in this that becomes clearer with repetition. Event. Judgment. Response. The event occurs. A judgment forms. A response follows. You cannot always prevent the event. You can train the judgment, and the response emerges from the judgment. Overthinking is prolonged judgment without action. The mind circles the same interpretation repeatedly. Marcus Aurelius interrupts the circle by altering the interpretation itself. He would sometimes describe things in deliberately plain terms to reduce their emotional charge. Fine food becomes a dead fish. Luxurious clothing becomes dyed wool. Fame becomes noise in the mouths of others. This is not cynicism. It is deconstruction. By naming things plainly, he strips away exaggeration. You can apply this to your own anxious themes. A feared presentation becomes speaking to a group of people. A critical email becomes words arranged on a screen. A delay becomes time passing. When stripped of narrative embellishment, many concerns lose intensity. Marcus Aurelius also held a deep conviction that whatever happens is suitable to you. Not comfortable, not pleasant, but suitable. Suitable in the sense that it provides material for the exercise of virtue. Without difficulty, courage is idle. Without insult, patience has no object. Without uncertainty, trust in reason is untested. This reframes anxiety. Instead of evidence that something is wrong, it becomes evidence that something is happening, something that can be met with discipline. The Stoic discipline is not aggressive. It is steady. It does not force the mind into silence. It guides it back to principle. What is within my control right now? Only my judgment. Is this judgment aligned with reason? If not, adjust it. Adjustment can be quiet. It does not require drama. It is a small internal shift. You may notice that as the distinctions repeat, the mind has fewer directions to travel. Each anxious branch is redirected into the same trunk of thought. Within control. Outside control. Act well when action is possible. except when it is not. Marcus Aurelius also reflected on the brevity of sleep and waking, on how each day is a fragment of life. To resent the present fragment is to resent life itself. The night is one such fragment. It is not an obstacle to tomorrow, it is part of the whole. If the mind insists on rehearsing tomorrow, remind it gently, tomorrow's actions require a rested faculty. To preserve that faculty is itself an act of prudence, one of the Stoic virtues. Prudence is practical wisdom, knowing what is appropriate in a given circumstance. In this circumstance, extended rumination produces no improvement in outcome. Therefore, prudence suggests cessation. You are not abandoning responsibility by quieting thought. You are allocating it to the proper time. Marcus Aurelius would rise before dawn to attend to affairs of state. But at night, when the body required sleep, he did not consider it weakness to yield to nature's rhythm. Nature assigns roles and cycles. To fight them without reason is excess. The anxiety you feel may attempt to justify itself as preparation. Examine that claim. Is this thought generating a concrete action now? Or is it circling abstractions? If it is abstraction, it belongs to imagination, not to duty. Duty resumes with daylight. For now, the discipline is narrower. A thought arises. You evaluate it. If it concerns virtue in this moment, you keep it. If it concerns externals beyond this moment, you release it. Again and again. The repetition itself becomes calming, not because it soothes emotion directly, but because it reduces confusion. Marcus Aurelius returned to first principles repeatedly because complexity multiplies without guidance. First principles contract complexity. You control your judgments. You aim at virtue. You accept fate. You act when required. You refrain when not. At this hour, refrain. Let the faculty rest. The cosmos continues without your supervision. Your task is smaller and more precise. Guard your ruling faculty from unnecessary disturbance, and allow the rest to proceed according to nature. Marcus Aurelius would sometimes contemplate how many people before him had lain awake with similar concerns, and how many after him would do the same. Generals, merchants, parents, laborers, all believing their present worry to be singular, when in fact it belongs to the common structure of human life. This recognition does not erase the feeling, but it removes the illusion of isolation. For the Stoic, you are a citizen of a larger whole. Marcus Aurelius described himself as a limb of the body of humanity. A limb does not exist independently, it functions within an organism governed by shared laws. When something occurs in your life, it is not an anomaly outside the system. It is part of the system. Anxiety often whispers that something has gone uniquely wrong. Stoicism replies that nothing stands outside nature. If it has occurred, it is natural. If it is natural, it can be met in accordance with nature, that is, with reason. Marcus Aurelius trained himself to say, this too is part of the pattern. Not because he enjoyed difficulty, but because resistance to the pattern multiplies suffering. To argue with what has already happened is to divide yourself internally. To accept that it has happened is to unify perception with reality. Overthinking at night frequently involves arguing with reality. It should not have happened. They should not have said that. I should have known better. Notice the word should. It implies a version of events that does not exist. Marcus Aurelius would bring the mind back to what is, not what should have been. What is done is done. What is said is said. What remains is your present judgment. This is the only flexible element. Marcus Aurelius also emphasized that the present moment is remarkably small. It is a point in time, constantly dissolving. When anxiety stretches into hours, it is often because the mind extends the present into imagined futures and reconstructed pasts. The Stoic compresses attention into the exact slice of time available now. Right now, lying here, what is demanded of you? No speech. No decision. No defense. Only awareness of your own thinking. This narrows the field considerably. When the field is narrow, agitation decreases. Marcus Aurelius would counsel himself to do what is in front of you with precise and genuine seriousness. At night, what is in front of you is not a task list. It is the management of impressions. If the impression is exaggerated, reduce it. If it is speculative, postpone it. If it concerns what cannot be changed, accept it. The Stoic does not chase mental silence. He cultivates mental order. Silence may follow, but order is the goal. Another theme Marcus Aurelius returned to was the insignificance of praise and blame. At night, social evaluation can feel urgent. Did they respect me? Did I appear competent? Will they judge me? But reputation, in Stoic doctrine, is an external. It exists in other people's minds, shaped by their own incomplete perceptions. If you act with integrity, the rest belongs to their faculty, not yours. To attempt to manage reputation through rumination is to attempt to govern another person's judgment from within your own mind. It cannot be done. Marcus Aurelius would remind himself that soon both he and those who judged him would be gone. Not as threat, but as perspective. The intensity of social anxiety fades when measured against impermanence. You may notice that many of your thoughts tonight concern outcomes that are not yet present. The Stoics call this living in anticipation rather than in actuality. They advise rehearsing principles, not disasters. The principle is stable. Virtue is the only good. External events are indifferent in themselves. Fate unfolds according to cause. Your role is to respond with reason. These statements are not dramatic. They are steady. Repeating them gradually displaces more elaborate narratives. Marcus Aurelius believed that if you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it. And this you have the power to revoke. Revoking an estimate does not require force. It requires reconsideration. Is this as catastrophic as I am imagining? Is this within my control? Does this threaten my character? If the answer to the last question is no, then the essential part of you remains intact. The mind grows quieter when it recognizes that its core is untouched. As we move further, explanations shorten. You are a rational being within a rational order. Events occur according to causes. Your judgments shape your experience of those events. You cannot alter what has occurred. You can alter how you interpret it. That is sufficient leverage. Marcus Aurelius practiced this nightly because emperors are not immune to fear. He did not assume philosophical immunity. He assumed human vulnerability. Philosophy was his response. Tonight, philosophy can be yours as well, not as decoration, but as structure. Structure reduces wandering. Within control. Outside control. Virtue. External. Present moment. Let these categories hold the mind. The body is already still. Let the judgments become still as well. Not through suppression. Through clarity. Clarity simplifies. Simplicity steadies. And steadiness is enough for this hour. There is another reflection Marcus Aurelius returned to often, especially when the mind threatened to spiral beyond proportion. He would ask himself, what is this thing, in its bare essence? When something troubles you at night, try to describe it without embellishment. Not the story. Not the imagined consequences. Only the event itself. A conversation occurred. A decision was made. A message was received. That is all. Notice how much smaller the reality is than the interpretation surrounding it. The Stoics call this the discipline of perception. Before reacting, before suffering twice, you pause and examine the impression. You separate fact from narrative. You reduce the dramatic tone. You remove the invisible adjectives. It is not a humiliation. It is a comment. It is not a disaster. It is an outcome. It is not ruin. It is change. Marcus Aurelius would remind himself that the universe is transformation. Nothing stands still. Loss, gain, praise, blame, all are movements within a larger current. To demand permanence from moving things is to demand what nature does not offer. And so, instead of clinging, the Stoic aligns. If something has shifted, then your task is not to restore the past, but to meet the present. This is where virtue returns. Because in Stoicism, virtue is the only true good. Not comfort. Not certainty. Not control over outcomes. Only the quality of your character in response to what unfolds. Ask yourself gently, can I respond to this with wisdom? With restraint? With courage? With fairness? If yes, then the situation contains an opportunity, not merely a threat. Marcus Aurelius trained himself to see obstacles as material for character. The same way fire consumes what is thrown into it and becomes brighter, the disciplined mind uses difficulty as fuel. At night, this metaphor softens. You do not need to burn brightly. You only need to remember that nothing that happens to you can prevent you from choosing your response. The body may be tired. The circumstances may be uncertain. But the faculty of judgment remains available. And that is enough. Another principle Marcus Aurelius held close was the idea that suffering often arrives twice, once in imagination and once in reality. The Stoic refuses the first version. He waits for the event itself. If it comes, he meets it then, not before. This is the timing of suffering. If tomorrow brings difficulty, tomorrow's reason will meet it. Tonight's task is only tonight. The future is not yours to rehearse endlessly. It will arrive in its own time, carrying its own resources. And so you narrow the frame again. Right now, what is actually present? A quiet room. The rhythm of breathing. Thoughts moving, but slowing. You are not required to solve your entire life before sleep. Marcus Aurelius would sometimes remind himself how small each human life is in comparison to the whole. Not to diminish its value, but to release its tension. The universe does not hinge on this single unresolved detail. Fate has carried civilizations, storms, births, endings, long before this moment. It will continue long after. You are a participant, not the controller of the whole. This recognition is not resignation. It is relief. Control what is yours, your judgment, your intention, your willingness to act with virtue when action is required. Release what is not, outcomes, opinions, the unfolding of events beyond your reach. The distinction becomes simpler now. My choice. Not my choice. My character. Not my circumstance. My effort. Not the result. Let these pairs settle in the mind like smooth stones placed gently in water. The water stills around them. Marcus Aurelius believed that a person can always choose to be upright, no matter the environment. No one can force you to interpret events irrationally. No one can compel you to abandon fairness unless you agree internally. Even in the quiet of night, this remains true. Your inner citadel, as he described it, is intact. No external event has breached it. Only your judgments move within its walls. And judgments can be examined, revised, softened. Now the concepts reduce further. Events happen. You judge them. You can judge differently. Virtue is enough. Fate unfolds. You participate with reason. Nothing more is demanded in this hour. The breath continues without instruction. The body knows how to rest. The mind, guided by principle, no longer needs to argue with what is. Marcus Aurelius would close his reflections by returning to alignment with nature. To live according to nature is to accept what comes, to act justly, to think clearly, and to release what exceeds your control. Tonight, that is sufficient. Let what is not yours fall away. Keep what is yours, your judgment, your intention, your capacity for virtue. And rest within that. Because if you guard your mind in accordance with reason, nothing external can truly disturb you. And that is enough. There is a final movement in Marcus Aurelius' reflections that feels almost like returning home. After examining events, separating control from fate, and reaffirming virtue as the only true good, he would narrow his focus even further to the immediate act before him. At night, the immediate act is simple. To lie here without adding unnecessary judgment. To let what has happened remain in the past. To let what may happen remain in the future. Stoicism is often misunderstood as emotional suppression. But Marcus Aurelius did not deny feeling. He examined it. He asked whether the feeling arose from a correct judgment. If not, he adjusted the judgment. You can do the same now. If unease lingers, ask quietly, what belief is sustaining this unease? Is it the belief that something must not change? Is it the belief that you must control outcomes? Is it the belief that discomfort is intolerable? Each of these can be gently questioned. Change is natural. Outcomes are not yours. Discomfort is survivable. When the belief softens, the feeling follows. Marcus Aurelius would also remind himself that nature gave you reason as a guide. Not as a weapon against yourself, but as a compass. Reason is not harsh. It is clarifying. It reduces confusion by distinguishing what depends on you from what does not. In this moment, very little depends on you. No argument must be won. No plan must be finalized. No future must be secured. The only responsibility is the discipline of perception. See clearly. Judge carefully. Accept willingly. Act justly when required. And when action is not required, rest. The Stoic understanding of fate is not fatalism. It is trust in the order of causes. Every event emerges from prior events. The present could not be otherwise than it is. To resist this fact is to exhaust yourself against necessity. To accept it is to conserve energy. Energy that can be used tomorrow for virtuous action. Marcus Aurelius often reflected on how quickly everything fades, sensations, thoughts, even entire lives. This awareness did not make him indifferent. It made him attentive. If everything passes, then clinging is futile. Better to meet each moment with composure and let it move on. Your worries tonight are already shifting. Notice how they are less defined than before. Less urgent. Less sharp. The philosophical structure remains, but it feels lighter now. Within your control, your judgment. Outside your control, events, outcomes, opinions, time. Your aim, virtue. Your companion, reason. Your teacher, nature. This is enough architecture for a peaceful mind. Marcus Aurelius would say that a person disturbed by external things has forgotten that the mind can choose its stance. You are remembering now. You are not compelled to escalate a thought. You are not obligated to pursue every scenario. You are permitted to release. Release is not avoidance. It is alignment with reality. If something must be done, it will present itself in daylight. If something cannot be changed, no amount of nocturnal rehearsal will alter it. The present asks only for calm judgment. The breath continues, steady and unforced. The body sinks more fully into rest. The mind, once scattered, gathers into simplicity. Events happen. Judgments respond. Virtue guides. Fate unfolds. Nothing more is required. Marcus Aurelius believed that living according to nature means consenting to what is given and using it for the good of your character. Tonight has given you stillness and reflection. You have used both. Now there is only one remaining act consistent with reason. To allow the mind to settle without resistance. To trust that tomorrow will arrive with its own clarity. To accept that you have done what is within your control. And to rest in the Stoic understanding that if your judgments remain aligned with virtue, then whatever fate brings, you remain undisturbed at your core. There is a quiet strength in recognizing limits. Marcus Aurelius did not try to be invulnerable. He tried to be aligned. When you accept that your control is partial, not absolute, something inside you loosens. You stop attempting to command the wind and instead adjust your sail. Tonight, nothing needs steering. The sea moves as it moves. Your role is smaller and therefore lighter. Stoicism returns again and again to this central distinction: what depends on you and what does not. This is not repetition without purpose. It is repetition that trains the mind. Just as the body strengthens through consistent movement, judgment strengthens through consistent clarity. Within your control, your choice to interpret wisely. Outside your control, the shape of tomorrow. Within your control, your willingness to act with justice. Outside your control, how others perceive you. Within your control, your effort. Outside your control, the result. As the night deepens, these categories feel less like philosophy and more like relief. Marcus Aurelius would sometimes imagine stepping back from his own concerns as if viewing them from above. Not to detach coldly, but to see proportion. From that height, conflicts become brief exchanges. Delays become minor shifts. Uncertainty becomes the natural condition of human life. Seen from above, very little is catastrophic. You can practice this now. See your life gently, from a distance. A human being navigating causes and effects. Learning. Adjusting. Responding. No single moment defines you. Only the pattern of your choices does. And those choices are guided by virtue. Wisdom to judge clearly. Courage to endure what must be endured. Justice toward others. Temperance in desire and fear. These are the pillars Marcus Aurelius trusted. Notice that none of them require perfect circumstances. They require only intention. Even lying here, you retain intention. You can intend not to exaggerate. You can intend not to resent fate. You can intend to meet tomorrow with steadiness. That is enough for now. The mind is quieter because it no longer fights reality. Reality has already happened. The future has not yet arrived. Between them is this narrow present. In this narrow present, nothing threatens your character. And if character remains intact, nothing essential has been lost. Marcus Aurelius believed that the good life is measured not by comfort, but by coherence with nature and reason. Coherence feels like ease. Not because circumstances are easy, but because you are no longer divided against what is. Division creates tension. Alignment creates rest. Let alignment deepen. Events are neutral in themselves. Judgment gives them weight. You may set down unnecessary weight. Fate is not your enemy. It is the unfolding of causes beyond your authorship. Your authorship lies in response. Response guided by virtue is always available. Even now. As thoughts then further, only the structure remains. Control and not control. Choice and consequence. Virtue and indifference. Present and not yet. These distinctions are enough to steady the mind. Marcus Aurelius would end many reflections with gratitude for the simple fact of participation in the order of the world. To wake, to act, to choose well, this is privilege enough. Tonight, you have chosen clarity over confusion. You have chosen acceptance over resistance. You have chosen discipline of perception over exaggeration. There is nothing left to resolve. Guard your judgment. Welcome what comes. Act when it is time to act. and rest now in the quiet certainty that if you remain faithful to reason and virtue, then whatever fate arranges, you will meet it in accordance with nature. There is one more refinement Marcus Aurelius practiced, and it is gentle. He would remind himself that the mind becomes colored by the thoughts it repeatedly entertains. If you return again and again to resentment, fear, or imagined catastrophe, the mind adopts their shape. If you return to reason, proportion, and virtue, the mind steadies in that direction instead. So tonight, you choose what to rehearse. Not disasters. Principles. Control where you can. Accept where you cannot. Respond with virtue. Let the rest unfold. This is mental training without strain. Marcus Aurelius did not expect himself to eliminate difficulty. He expected himself to meet it properly. That difference changes everything. You do not need a painless life to have a coherent one. You need only consistent judgment. If tomorrow contains effort, you will apply effort. If tomorrow contains disappointment, you will apply perspective. If tomorrow contains success, you will apply moderation. Each event has its corresponding virtue, and virtue is always within reach. The Stoics often spoke of the inner citadel, the protected space of reason that no external force can invade without your consent. Tonight, that citadel is quiet. Nothing is breaching it. Thoughts may knock, but you decide which are admitted. If a thought exaggerates, you reduce it. If a thought predicts, you postpone it. If a thought concerns what is not yours, you release it. This is discipline without aggression. It is simply careful stewardship of judgment. Marcus Aurelius trusted that the universe is governed by rational order, even when individual events feel disordered. To align with that order is to trust that what happens fits into a pattern larger than your immediate view. You do not need to see the entire pattern to participate wisely within it. Your participation is simple. See clearly. Choose justly. Accept willingly. Act when called. Rest when not called. Now even these sentences can shorten. Events happen. You judge. Choose wisely. Let go. Virtue is enough. The body has already accepted stillness. Let the mind do the same. There is no argument left to win. No outcome to secure tonight. No past to revise. Only this narrow present, free of obligation beyond maintaining a sound judgment. Marcus Aurelius believed that if you live in harmony with nature, you will not be carried away by fear of what might happen, nor broken by what has happened. Harmony is not passivity. It is consent to reality combined with commitment to virtue. Consent. Commitment. Clarity. That is sufficient. As the edges of thought soften, the philosophy remains intact but simplified. Within your control, your response. Outside your control, everything else. Aim at virtue. Accept fate. This is the Stoic path. And so you let the mind rest in its proper role, not master of the universe, but guardian of judgment. Guard it gently. Align it with reason. Trust the unfolding of causes. And remember, as Marcus Aurelius did, that if you keep your ruling faculty in accordance with nature, nothing external can truly harm you. So rest in that understanding. What is not yours was never yours to carry. What is yours, your judgment, your intention, your virtue, remains steady. And that is enough. As the night deepens further, Marcus Aurelius would sometimes return to the simplest observation of all: you are a thinking being, given a brief span within a vast order. Your task is not to dominate that order, but to move within it intelligently. When you remember this, the pressure to control dissolves. You are not required to orchestrate outcomes. You are required only to choose your response well. Stoicism does not promise comfort. It promises stability. And stability comes from placing your concern only where your influence truly exists. If you try to extend concern beyond influence, the mind stretches and strains. So let it contract back to its proper boundary. Your judgment, your intention, your present choice. That boundary is enough. Marcus Aurelius also reflected on how often the mind invents harm before harm arrives. He would caution himself, do not suffer in imagination. If difficulty comes, it will come as a present fact, not as 1,000 possibilities. You do not need to carry every version of tomorrow. You will meet only one. And when you meet it, you will meet it with the same faculty you have now, reason guided by virtue. That has always been sufficient. Notice how much of what once felt urgent now feels distant. The body is heavier. The breath is even. The thoughts are fewer. The structure remains, but it no longer demands effort. Within control. Outside control. Virtue. Fate. Present moment. Marcus Aurelius believed that tranquility is not found by escaping events, but by correcting judgments. When judgment is correct, even difficulty becomes material for excellence of character. You do not need to improve your circumstances tonight. You have improved your stance toward them. And stance is the source of peace. Let this final simplification settle. Events are neither good nor bad in themselves. Your use of them determines their value. You control your use. Fate controls the rest. That is the partnership between human reason and the larger order. Nothing more complicated is required. If something belongs to you, you will act on it when morning arrives. If it does not belong to you, it can remain where it is. Marcus Aurelius would end by consenting inwardly to whatever the next day might contain. Not because he knew it would be easy, but because he trusted that virtue is compatible with any circumstance. You can make that same quiet consent now. Whatever comes, you will respond with reason. Whatever changes, you will adapt with discipline of perception. Whatever is outside your control, you will accept as part of fate. And whatever is within your control, you will handle with virtue. There is nothing left to add. Guard the ruling faculty. Align it with nature. Accept the unfolding of causes. And rest in the Stoic certainty that a mind faithful to reason and virtue remains undisturbed, whatever fate may bring. There is a final gentleness in Marcus Aurelius' practice. After examining the structure of control and fate, after refining perception and returning to virtue, he would allow the mind to settle not through force, but through sufficiency. Enough has been considered. Enough has been clarified. The work of this hour is complete. Stoicism does not require endless analysis. It requires correct orientation. Once you have oriented the mind toward what is within your control and released what is not, further rumination becomes unnecessary repetition. You have distinguished judgment from event. You have accepted the unfolding of causes. You have remembered that virtue is the only true good. Nothing essential remains unresolved. Marcus Aurelius understood that nature operates without haste. The seasons do not rush. The stars do not strain. Causes unfold into effects in their proper time. When you attempt to rush what is not ready, tension arises. Tonight, nothing needs acceleration. Tomorrow will arrive by necessity, not by your insistence. Trust timing. The Stoics believed that suffering, when it must occur, should be met at the moment it arrives, not rehearsed in advance. This preserves strength. You do not waste energy on shadows. If pain comes, you will meet pain. If challenge comes, you will meet challenge. But right now, neither is here. Only this quiet interval. Marcus Aurelius would remind himself that even the most powerful individuals are subject to the same laws as everyone else. Illness, misunderstanding, change, uncertainty, all are universal. There is no exemption clause in nature. This recognition equalizes experience. What you face is human. And being human is not an error. It is participation. Participation guided by reason is dignity. Let that dignity be simple now. The body rests. The mind need not solve existence. Only guard its faculty of judgment. If a thought arises that does not serve virtue, let it pass. If a thought concerns what is outside your control, let it remain outside. If a thought invites clarity, accept it briefly and release it. Shorter now. Control what is yours. Accept what is not. Choose virtue. Consent to fate. This is the entire architecture. Marcus Aurelius believed that when the ruling faculty aligns with nature, fear diminishes because nothing truly contrary to your moral purpose can occur. External events may challenge comfort, but they cannot compel vice. And if they cannot compel vice, they cannot harm what is most important. So the mind loosens further. There is no enemy here. No urgent demand. No hidden catastrophe requiring midnight defense. Only causes unfolding as they must. Only a rational being choosing to respond well. You have done that. You have reduced exaggeration. You have released what was never yours to control. You have reaffirmed virtue as your aim. There is quiet strength in that. Now even the structure simplifies. Reason. Virtue. Acceptance. That is enough. Marcus Aurelius would close his reflections with a simple inward agreement. Whatever happens is appropriate to the whole, and I will meet it in accordance with my nature. You can make that same agreement now. Whatever fate arranges, you will answer with reason. Whatever changes, you will adapt without resentment. Whatever is given, you will use for the cultivation of character. Guard the ruling faculty. Live according to nature. And rest in the certainty that when your judgments remain aligned with virtue, nothing external can truly disturb you. Now the final movement becomes very small. Marcus Aurelius would sometimes end not with a grand conclusion, but with a return to simplicity. After philosophy, after analysis, after the careful sorting of what is within control and what is not, he would remind himself that the present moment requires very little. This breath, this stillness, this willingness to align. The Stoic path is not complicated. It is consistent. You govern your judgments. You accept the order of causes. You act with virtue when action is required. You wait without agitation when it is not. Right now, no action is required. Only consent. Consent to what has happened. Consent to what is unfolding. Consent to your role as a rational participant in a larger whole. Marcus Aurelius trusted that nothing occurs outside nature. If it has occurred, it belongs. If it belongs, it can be met. And if it can be met, it can be met with virtue. That is enough reassurance for any mind. You do not need guarantees of comfort. You need only confidence in your capacity to respond well. And that capacity remains intact. As thoughts become softer, the distinctions remain but feel effortless. Within your control, your judgment. Outside your control, events. Your aim, virtue. Your companion, reason. Your environment, fate unfolding according to cause. There is nothing missing from this structure. Nothing to add. Nothing to defend. Marcus Aurelius believed that the good life is available in any circumstance because it depends on inner alignment, not outer arrangement. Outer arrangements change constantly. Inner alignment is a choice renewed moment by moment. Tonight, you have renewed it. You have chosen clarity over exaggeration. Acceptance over resistance. Discipline of perception over emotional excess. That is the Stoic work. And it is complete for this hour. Let the mind rest in its proper boundary. You are not responsible for the entire future. You are responsible for your present judgment. You are not responsible for every outcome. You are responsible for your intention. You are not responsible for controlling fate. You are responsible for consenting to it and acting virtuously within it. Now even these sentences can fade into their essence. Judge wisely. Accept fully. Act justly. Wait calmly. Marcus Aurelius would close by turning inward one last time, not in tension, but in quiet resolve. Whatever tomorrow carries, he would meet it as part of the natural order, guided by reason and committed to virtue. You can do the same. Guard the ruling faculty. Live according to nature. Welcome what comes as fitting within the whole. And rest knowing that if your judgments remain aligned with virtue, then whatever fate brings, you remain undisturbed at your core.